Hello and welcome to Racers Now, where in this video we have an anti-post update on the final classic of the season, the St. Leger at Doncaster on September the 13th. Now, the latest stage of entries are out just a couple of days ago, and there's no getting away from it. They don't look and they didn't deliver good reading for regular followers of yours truly on Racers Now, because Merchant, my anti-post tip from June, the end of June, when I tipped him up, he was bang impressive in a Royal Ascot handicap. I put him up a 2-point win selection at 14-1 for the St. Leger, and I was feeling confident. I was feeling even more confident after he went and won a known St. Leger trial in the Gordon Stakes at Goodwood at the end of July. But the bubble was quickly burst after Goodwood, where he won in torrential rain, where connections were talking about the Arc more than the St. Leger. So I still held out a little bit of hope that they might revert and give their head a wobble and realise that Merchant is a lovely St. Leger prospect. But no, a few days after that Goodwood win, he's been taken out of the St. Leger at the latest entry stage. Maybe I tipped a horse that was too good for the St. Leger in Merchant, as yes, they now look like they're talking him up as a bit of an Arc horse. I mean, William Haggis compared Merchant potentially running in the St. Leger, or it being a bad idea for him to run in the St. Leger, with comparison to Desert Hero, who he ran in the St. Leger a couple of years ago in the King and Queen's colours. I don't know what connections there. I mean, yeah, fair enough. It might have been the wrong race for Desert Hero. It might have curtailed his career. But that doesn't mean it's going to do the same to Merchant. I just thought it was quite strange, really, to make that comparison. But yeah, maybe Merchant is too good for a St. Leger, and he could well be a player in one of the biggest and best races of them all in Paris in early October. So yes, licking my wounds there. So that was the end of that in terms of Merchant, on at 14-1, as low as 3-1 after that win at Goodwood, and now not running. So that does leave, after getting out of my losing mentality there, that does leave Scandinavia as the 5-4 anti-post favourite, and rightly so, given that he won the Bahrain Trophy against his own generation by over 8 lengths at the July meeting. Then he followed up in the Group 1 Goodwood Cup against his more fancied and older stable mate, last year's St. Leger second, Illinois. Illinois and Scandinavia got into a big battle in the Goodwood Cup, and it was Wayne Lorden that came out on top on Scandinavia. So yeah, on the basis that Lambourne, who we're going to come on to, looks unlikely to run in the St. Leger, then Scandinavia and his form that he brings to this race is will not be bettered. He's the one to beat. The form that Scandinavia, having won that Bahrain Trophy by such a long way, and the Group 1 Goodwood Cup, that form line will not be bettered between now and the middle of September at Doncaster, and he is sure to go off a short price favourite to make it 3 St. Legers in a row for Aidan O'Brien. If Lambourne was trained by anyone else other than Aidan O'Brien, and possibly William Haggis, as we've learned, he'd be all over a St. Leger horse. He's been a stayer since the day he made his debut, Lambourne. He's a dual English and Irish Derby winner in his own right, both in staying fashion rather than speedy fashion. But connections have other ideas for him, Lambourne. They see him more as an Arc contender. They could well be right. Coolmore often, in recent years, have rolled out the classy line when choosing to steer what I would consider a St. Leger, out-and-out St. Leger prospect from Ballydoyle, from Coolmore, looking away from Town more because they claim he's too classy, or more class than he's got more class than a St. Leger was what they used last year for Los Angeles. They've brought out similar lines this year to Lambourne as well. So yeah, clearly the 14.5 furlong classic at Doncaster doesn't do much for potential stallion fees at Coolmore headquarters. So yeah, it looks like Scandinavia to the St. Leger, Lambourne to the Arc. But that's not to say that Lambourne will definitely not run in the St. Leger. I still think there's a bit of a chance that he might, but it is definitely odds against. Look, last year they ran 2 good horses in the St. Leger itself. Jan Bruegel, the winner. Illinois was only a neck behind in second. Good horses in their own right. So I wouldn't completely rule it out, Lambourne running, but it looks like Scandinavia is the one at the moment. And as a result, Scandinavia is clearly the one to beat. Of the 26 entries, as usual, the usual story, O'Brien's got 11 of them. So again, we could be looking at a smallish field in another one of our Group 1s. Now, from those that are not trained by Aidan O'Brien, Lazy Griff would be an almost certain runner if you look at his profile, having performed with credit at Epsom, where he was second behind Lambourne, and at the Curragh, where he was third behind Lambourne, and at the Curragh, he was miles too far back before making late progress. The Curragh, notoriously, you need to be up with the pace, in the van, as I say. Lazy Griff was a mile back and was an eye-catcher staying on late. He's certainly the leading contender at this stage from forming the book for the St. Leger. From a UK perspective, he looks unlikely to run between now and then, given that Lazy Griff is not entered in the Voltigeur at York, but placings at Epsom and the Curragh in respective English and Irish derbies does appear enough to have stamped his claim, if you like, at this stage of the season to be a St. Leger contender. Also in there, we've got Wimbledon Hawkeye. Now, I do not like the way that this horse has been campaigned generally and owned, if you like, changing of trainers, changing of jockeys, running in the wrong races to a degree. But there is no denying that Wimbledon Hawkeye is slowly improving. He was only a nose behind Merchant in the Gordon at Goodwood. He'll probably run with similar credit in the Voltigeur, probably without winning, and they might as well go and have a go at the Leger thereafter. You'll be stretching it to say that Wimbledon Hawkeye could threaten Scandinavia on form that we've seen so far, but I do think Wimbledon Hawkeye will run in the Leger, and that's half the job, as we say all the time, for anti-post betting. Who is going to turn up, and are they a price worth backing now? SD tipped up Nighttime Dancer on this very channel way back on June the 9th at 40-1. He's still available at 33-1, and he's only raced once since then. Since he ran a bit of an eye-catching race in the Derby. SD liked him there. That was in early June. Then he ran in that Bahrain Trophy behind Scandinavia. Now, on the day, Nighttime Dancer was over 4 lengths behind. It was 8 lengths behind Scandinavia. Now, that defeat may have felt disappointing on the day. Nighttime Dancer went off about 3-1. He got beat 8 lengths. On the face of it, a slightly disappointing result. But when you look into it a bit closer, Scandinavia then went on to win the Goodwood Cup, as we've mentioned, and Nighttime Dancer was over 4 lengths in front of the rest of the runners in that Bahrain Trophy. I think there was another 3 runners. Scandinavia first, 8 lengths back to Nighttime Dancer, who was second, over 4 lengths back to the rest. It's looking a bit better as time goes on, given what Scandinavia has done since then. He has been quiet since that July outing and holds no entries at the moment, other than the English and Irish St. Legers. So that might be a concern for Nighttime Dancer if he's only running in the Derby, then the middle of July, and then going all the way to September without a run. Although I could definitely see an angle where Nighttime Dancer is the best of the rest on the day if he runs. He could be better than Lazy Griff. He probably is better than Wimbledon Hawkeye, but he's available at 33-1 at the moment. I think Nighttime Dancer would be the most interesting if I was looking at it now, but I think that price is unlikely to change between now and the St. Leger, if indeed he does go straight there, because he's not entered in any other races. So there'll be no reason for his price to change. There is the potential that he could run in, I think it's called the Geoffrey Freer Stakes at Newbury. It's not an early entry race, but Nighttime Dancer and Lazy Griff are not entered in the Voltigeur, which is the chief St. Leger trial between now and the race itself. Just want to touch on Ralph Beckett as well while we're at it. Given his rise in recent years, Ralph Beckett's season this year, 2025, was threatening to become a bit of a disappointment. That was until Goodwood came around and he smashed in the winner of the Sussex Stakes and started banging in other winners left, right and centre. And he might have a say on this St. Leger. He's got 2 in the race at the moment, Beckett. Pinhole and Push the Limit. They're both entered. They're both priced at 33-1. The pair of them would need to step up significantly to trouble the podium at Doncaster on what we've seen so far. But I just did find it interesting that they're both in there because A, they both took big step forwards on their respective most recent starts. One of them winning at Push the Limit, won at Goodwood. The other one won, Pinhole won at Ascot quite recently, both at the end of July. So that might be coinciding with Ralph Beckett's general stable uptick in form, may well apply to these 2 horses as well. So A, they took a big step forward on their most recent starts from what they'd shown earlier in the year, which was probably disappointing. And then they took a big step forward, both winning. And B, they've both been left in the St. Leger, despite only to this point in their career winning handicaps. The pair of them, Pinhole and Push the Limit, never won at higher level than a handicap. So I just thought that was interesting. It's got loads to do on ratings and the big prices as a result. There's no further bets from me at this stage, given that I am still hurting from Merchant coming out, but I will be keeping my eye on that Nighttime Dancer, and I hope he's engaged in a warm-up race somewhere between now and the St. Leger itself. I think he's the most overpriced one at the moment. He's got that unexposed nature to him. He could improve. He looks an out-and-out stayer. But like I say, he ran with some credit in the Bahrain Trophy that's looking better as time goes on. But we need to see him at a racecourse sometime between now, early August, and at Doncaster in the middle of September. As always, we'll be previewing all the big Group 1s here on Racers Now. We've got the York Ebor Festival to come before the St. Leger Festival. We've got all those Group 1s covered on the channel. But do let us know in the comments who you fancy for the St. Leger at this early stage.